Hey now guys, it's me, it's Knockout 21. How are y'all doing today? Now this is going to be a quick little video. I'm going to go ahead and explain some things. For the past couple of years, my systems, particularly the CD-based systems or disc-based systems, they've been giving me a bit of an issue. Last year, my Dreamcast's GDrom drive, it went kaput. It failed on me, wasn't reading the disk. I tried everything, moving around the little screw and the thing in the back of the laser and stuff, nothing was working. And I honestly thought I would have to throw away this Dreamcast and get a new one. The problem is that a lot of Dreamcasts, it's around this time that a lot of them are going to start failing, and finding a working one is going to get harder and harder. And I thought, well, if I'm going to get a Dreamcast and then have it fail on me a couple of years down the line, what was the point of getting the second Dreamcast? And then that got me to think, eventually all my disc-based systems are going to fail on me. So what am I going to do? Now, this video is about mostly showing the multiple apps and programs you can use to like rip these games and have them play on the original hardware. And I believe it's an awesome way of playing your games, not only because it's conveniently stored onto the consoles, but you could make room, shelf, or put away your games and stuff, and not having to worry about like the disc getting scratched or whatever. Anyway, onward to the video. Now what you're looking at here is the USB-GDrom drive. It's an awesome little device. It's made by some guy in Russia. However, if you plan to get this, just be prepared to wait maybe about a month, 2 months to get. But I highly recommend it, especially for people with broken GD-ROM drives. However, the biggest issue is actually trying to get games loaded on there. You could always like download the images and then stick them on the USB drive that way. However, that's kind of illegal. What I personally did was I had a separate Dreamcast, burned the operating system known as DreamShell on a CD, and used one of the apps included in DreamShell to start ripping my games onto an SD card. Now, this process takes roughly around 40 minutes. Yeah, it's a very slow process. I heard the adapter that the DreamShell uses for the SD card, it's pretty slow, way slower than it should be. So yeah, be prepared for that. But once you get your games ripped, safely backed up, you can easily stick them all on the USB drive and you're pretty much good to go. Up next, I'm going to show off the USB Loader GX. Now, this thing can only run on a soft-modded Nintendo Wii. So if you guys want to do this, be sure to soft mod your Wii. There's a bunch of tutorials online how to pull it off. It has to do with the SD card and messaging system. Anyway, the USB Loader GX is one of the easier pieces of Homebrew I've ever used. Everything's more or less self-explanatory. This thing could record on either an SD card or a USB hard drive or USB flash drive, whatever you want to use. And not only can it record Wii games, but also GameCube games. GameCube games generally take around 5 minutes to install, and Wii games, depending on the game, could take either like 10 minutes or like 40 minutes. I'm about to show you right now that with Metro Prime Corruption 3, it took a good while for it to install. But in the end, you know, I got it into my system. Another neat feature is that if you got your Wii connected to like an online source or your Wi-Fi or whatever, you could download cover art for all of your games that you have installed. So you got this nice little menu going, and it's freaking great. I highly recommend this if you want to like back up your games using the Nintendo Wii. Up next, I'm going to show you guys the app I use to back up my games on the original Xbox. As you see a picture here, it's of a mod chip I installed on my Xbox a long time ago. You don't necessarily need something like this. You could also soft mod your Xbox using one of the Splinter Cell games. However, I do recommend you get a larger hard drive. Yeah, the 8GB stock hard drive that came with the Xbox isn't going to cut it. So if you got a pretty big library and you plan to install a bunch of your games, yeah, get a bigger hard drive. The app I use here is called DVD to Xbox. The title pretty much says it all. You stick a DVD into the Xbox and you can rip your game that way. All you gotta do is select a directory, wait till your Xbox reads the disc, and then you can just start installing your game. But that isn't the only way you can install your game. You could also install your game using FileZilla, the FTP client, and you know you could do that. You could do it that way too. Although I've never, like I said before, ever dabbled in downloading games off the internet. But you know that would be the only reason why you would need to install a game that way, I guess. Regardless, once your game is installed, you could go to your custom Xbox dashboard and basically load up your game that way. And finally, we're going to talk about ripping games onto your PS2. The fat PS2, that is. As you can see here, I got a 250 gig hard drive attached to a PlayStation 2 network adapter. That's what I own, that's what I have. And then there are two methods. There are two methods of installing games onto your PS2 hard drive. First method is with the PC. You're going to need to connect a IDE to USB adapter. The picture you see here is the one that's using a 2.0 USB, which is typically a little slower. There are 3.0 versions out there. They're a little bit harder to find, a little bit more expensive, but I do recommend those just because they're much faster. But a 2.0 will work just as well. And the program I'm using is called the Windows HDL Image Installer. This program lets you able to install games directly from your PC's hard drive if you download some. I don't recommend you download any, but if you downloaded some PlayStation 2 games, they'll let you rip them that way. It'll also let you rip your own collection onto your PC's hard drive if you want to do that too. And getting an image from your PC and installing them on your PlayStation 2 hard drive typically takes around a minute 10 seconds. Dragon Warrior here took around that length of time, and it was pretty quick. It probably would have been half the time if it was a 3.0. But that ain't the only way. You could also insert a PlayStation 2 game disc into your computer's disk drive and rip the game directly to the PlayStation 2 hard drive in that manner. You know, in case you don't want to take up any space or anything like that. Just insert the game, you know, put the game's title in there so the PlayStation 2 program could read it, and then just hit OK. This method typically takes, I want to say around 5 minutes. Yeah, around 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes. It's a little slower than the other method, and it will vary depending on the size of the game. But the option's there if you want to use it in that matter. It is faster than the next way I'm about to show you guys. Before I continue, You guys gonna need to mod your PlayStation 2. I soft modded my PS2 using a free McBoot memory card. You could get these memory cards relatively cheap on eBay for around 10 bucks. And honestly, it's worth it. You don't have to open up or your PS2 or solder anything. Just kind of stick it into the memory card slot and it'll start working. The program I'm going to be using, it's called HD Loader. You could install this like on a separate flash drive and connect it to your PS2, and that's how I have this program running. Wow, that's a lot of games. This program works the same way as all the other ones did on the other consoles I mentioned. Pretty much you just stick the game in, go to install, have the PlayStation 2 read it, and it'll just start installing. Be sure to name the game, because if you don't do that, you'll probably have a tough time finding which game is which. Typically, installing a game takes around 10 minutes. Shinobi, which took about 5 to 6 minutes via my computer through the disk drive, that only took like half the time. This took around 10-11 minutes. So be careful about that. As you can see, the speeds are really quite slow. It does take a long time. But once they're in there, they're in there. I only recommend this option if you do not have a computer available or something. Now, you could use the HD loader to boot up your games. The menu's just right there. Select your game and then push play. And the game will load. However, I prefer using something else entirely. Personally, I use the app called Open PS2. It has a much better presentation. It gives you the options of looking at cover art, disc cover art, and overall it's a little easier to use than the Open HD or HD loader itself. But either way will work fine. I just prefer this method. And there you have it, guys. The multiple ways you can rip games onto your consoles. I know there's other ways out there, but this is the methods I use. You're probably wondering why I didn't give instructions how to do this. Well, the reason why, it's very intricate, some of these methods, and there are people out there that do a better job explaining it than I do. I just wanted to show you guys that there is an option out there if you want your consoles to last a little longer. On a side note, I want to tell you about the benefits of actually doing this. One, there's a big convenience factor. All your games already installed in your consoles. You don't have to pull your games out every time you want to get or play a new console, that sort of thing. Two, the load times are much faster. You don't have to wait a long ass time for your game to load. You could just push play. Load times take mere seconds sometimes, as opposed to like a half a minute. And yeah, it's good overall. Anyway, this was Knockout 21. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And like always, have a good one. Take care, you guys.